I'm reviewing this book, My System by Nimzovich, Fast Track Edition, which is been edited by Grandmaster Alex Fishbein. This book is very interesting because it's at least 100 years old, and it's a book that practically all the great chess players have studied. In fact, here you can read about Tal words on this book for the Russian edition, but I remember that Petrosian was sleeping with Nimzovich book. I don't remember if it was sleeping with Chess Praxis or My System, that is this book. This is the fast track, which means he has been abridged in a way that the modern reader can understand, because often the language used by Nimzovich it's difficult to understand. So Grandmaster Alex Fishbein made a great job to modernize the language. Here I would like to show you this game by Joner versus Nimzovich. So you are going to see it from Nimzovich's side, that is the winner. And the topic is the qualitative pawn majority. Here it says, if you are familiar with pawn chains, you will easily understand this concept. And in bold is written, pawns moving in the direction of the opponent's base should be considered qualitatively stronger. So the bold phrases are Nimzovich, okay? And then he continues, the struggle against a qualitative pawn majority often involves a rook pawn, okay? And here he gives examples, position examples, so with a diagram, and then of course there are also some games. Nimzovich also made this chess praxis, that is just a book of his games in which he reiterates these concepts. So here we have games 28, Joner versus Nimzovich, played in Dresden in 1926. It starts with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, the famous Nimzo-Indian defense, e3, castle, bishop d3, c5, knight f3, knight c6, castle, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and d6. And here there is a diagram, okay? So you must stop and read under. Here it says, the prognosis for the double pawn complex is likely, not much, in black's favor. For instance, if blacks achieve the advance of a d-pawn after e4, e5, d5, knight a5, the price paid is not that cheap because the c-pawn would rather have stayed at c7. Okay, see the previous chapter. So, thanks to the diagram, we can return back into the original position after we have seen this note. Okay. The game continues with knight d2, b6, knight b3, e5, and f4. Obviously, this is a book that you must think and analyze with, okay? And it's not about combinations, tactical combination, because in this case, instead of f4, it says d5 would run into, boom, this move, e4. And here it gives a line which is an advantage for black, okay? So, f4, e4, bishop e2. Now, if you were black, how would you continue? because here after the diagram there is the beautiful move by black and the reason why. The move is this. If you have paused the video and try to find it, if you don't, I continue, okay? Queen d7, double exclamation point, and it says, black has recognized that white has a qualitative pawn majority on the king side and begins a complicated strategy to restrain it. A simple but weaker method is knight e8, okay? And here it gives a line about knight e8, in which white is doing fine. Because you must understand this, generally in this kind of pawn formations, you think of the bishop that is bad. So it seems that knight e8 was able to free white's bishop, while queen d7 is not doing it. And so practically white is playing with a piece less, or just a tall pawn, how it's called the bad bishop, and this also going to influence the fact that he's playing with the rook out of the game. Okay, so the game continues with h3, knight e7, queen e1, and here there is h5, another good move. But why it's a good move? That's why we need the wisdom of the Grandmaster Fishbein. The double pawns on c3 and c4 constrict the white pieces, impeding their participation in any meaningful kingside plan. Okay. Yeah. Bishop d2. White cannot play queen h4, it says, because of knight f5, queen d5, knight h7, and queen takes d5, h5, knight g3. Okay, so this is the reason why white cannot play that move. Okay, so yeah, so this move was really good at restricting also this bishop, probably, right? Okay, so he played bishop d2 instead. And now there is another good move by black. And in fact, you know why it's important to read this book, in my opinion? Because the moves are not tactics like we learn in these chess sites. The moves have a meaning behind, where they want to place the piece in a better square or in a better place, and there is an actual plan that you can see here. So probably that's why you need to have this book, because the moves are not so evident, not so clear why they are played, and so it will teach you a lot. In this case, it's queen h5. The queen is added for h7, okay, where it will be marvelously placed, as black will already threaten to cripple the white king side with h5, h4. The entire concept, queen d8, d7, f5, h7, is quite remarkable, if I do say so myself. So this is a plan, okay? Queen d8, d7, f5, h7. This is all a plan. So that's why also h5 was important. It wasn't played just to restrain this bishop, but because he had a big plan in mind. And here maybe you can see why for beginners, for club players, long time controls are important, because this kind of plans come out only if you have time to think. And for sure, this game between Joner and Nimzovich was played with a very long time control. Probably they had at least 3-4 minutes per move, so they had the time to think, and maybe they fought, in this case Nimzovich, maybe fought 15 minutes, 20 minutes upon this plan. that he then made upon the board, and we can witness today. So it's great, no? Nearly 100 years later. Okay, king h2 again. You can see if he moves here, it's because he wants to continue the attack, right? King h7, a4, knight f5. Here there is another diagram with a line. It says it's threatening knight g4, h take g4, h take g4, king g1, and g3. The g3 would be supported by this knight, and so there is a possible checkmate on h2. Notice it's great to read these books, and you need, however, to learn to visualize. So when they give you a line that is just 2 moves long, 3 moves long, try to visualize without playing it on the board, because that's how you would see it in a real chess game, right? Okay, the game continue with g3, e5. We do not mind a backward pawn here on b6. Rook g1, knight h6, bishop f1, bishop d7, bishop c1, and rook a c8. Getting white to play d4, d5 will free black's hand on the king side. Of course, if the center gets blocked, practically it's obvious that you can only attack on the side. And this is a kind of feature that we have in international chess, differently from other kind of chess like Chinese chess, where you can actually block the board with the pawns. And so it becomes really a strategic struggle on which side you are able to counter attack. d5, king h8, knight d2, rook g8. Okay, so you see these moves, they are made in a way that is preparing an attack. So yes, this book is really interesting because it's showing us some important ideas. And here it says the attack begins, so the maneuver once more. Knight d7, f5, h7 was an attacking one? Yes and no. No, because its idea was only to restrain the white pawns, but yes, because restraint is a logical precursor to an attack. Any immobile structure tends to become weak, and sooner or later will be a target of attack. Bishop g2, g5, knight f1, rook g7, rook a2, very good, very interesting idea. He's trying to bring the rook on the king side, knight f5, and bishop h1. White has skillfully brought all his reserves to the defense. He has created a square for rook c g8, but as we can see also, black is bringing everything into the king side, right? Queen d1, and g take f4. Requires some serious thought because it opens the g file for black, but the e file for the opponent. He takes f4, bishop c8, queen b3, bishop a6, and the rook e2. Trying to make use of a newly opened e-file after a purely defensive move like bishop d2. I was intending a pretty combination. So it says that if white would have played this move, he would have played a combination which started with rook g6, and here you will see the line if you buy the book. Yeah. And now there is a very interesting move from what I can see. Knight h4, Wow. Uh, Here it says that white played rook e3, but black was expecting knight d2, and also it gives a combination if white would have played that move. A combination that, by the way, ends up 3-4 moves later with a checkmate. So it shows once more the importance of long time control for calculation, because you need to have time to calculate a checkmate in 3-4 moves, especially over the board, right? Okay, so rook e3, bishop c8, queen c2, and bishop takes h3. Great move. Now it continues with bishop takes e4, but if you buy the book, you will see that there is a line with king takes h3, and maybe you could pause the video and try to find the checkmate, because after king takes h3, there is a checkmate in about 3-4 moves. Okay, let's go on. So bishop takes e4, bishop f5. The best move, because now the absence of the h pawn makes the threat of h5, h4 decisive. So white continues with bishop takes f5, knight takes f5, rook e2, h4, rook g, g2. Employ to escape. H takes g3, check. Rook g1, king g1, queen h3, knight e3, knight h4, king f1, and rook e8. And white resign. This is one of the most beautiful blockading games I have ever played. So this is said by Nimzovich. And this is a very interesting game, because sometimes, we can learn more from a game, because we can put ourselves in the player's shoes and see how it works. Clearly, it's a beautiful attacking game, but that maneuver, queen d8, d7, f5, h7, was clearly very, very beautiful. And just for that, I think it's worth to buy this book and just read the games. If you don't want to understand the theoretical part, it doesn't matter, but at least enjoy the games, because they will give you something.